He believed money could silence the past. So, he vanished, abandoned the mansions, the cameras, and the commotion. In a forgotten place, he purchased a dilapidated shack, believing silence would cure him. But silence does not always mean peace. Because in that shack lived a young black woman, alone, afraid, holding her twins. And what he found next wasn't merely a secret. It was a reflection of all he'd been fleeing. What happens when privilege hides from pain and finds the truth instead? Ethan Cole wasn't born rich. He built his empire from the ground up, tech, stocks, and long nights that stole his peace. People saw success. They didn't see the scars behind it. After losing his wife in a crash the tabloids called tragic but glamorous, Ethan vanished from the world that once worshipped him. He drove until city lights were out of sight and roads became dirt. In the middle of nowhere, he discovered it, a crumbling shack with blistered paint and a creaking porch. To everyone else, it was worthless. To him, it was where he could disappear. But peace is tenuous. The first night, he heard it, a low wail, as if someone were trying not to be heard. He told himself at first it was the wind. But somewhere deep inside, something in that sound tugged at a piece of him he'd long hidden. For what he was about to learn wasn't simply someone else's tale. It was about the type of hurt money could never purchase an exit from. The noise returned the following morning, softer, more muffled, emerging from behind the decrepit storage door at the rear of the shack. Ethan was indecisive. He hadn't intended to speak with anyone. But when he pushed open that door, all action ceased in his world. Huddled on the floor was a young black woman, hardly 20. Her clothes were ripped, her hands shaking as she covered two wailing infants. The air reeked of wet wood and terror. She jumped at his shadow. Ethan attempted to talk, and she edged back. The more he spoke, the worse it seemed to be. It wasn't fear in her eyes. It was distrust. Distrust that had been built up over generations of hurt by people who resembled him. He left food scraps in the kitchen, left them on the porch. She touched them for hours. When she did, Ethan saw something shift inside him. Guilt, perhaps, or shame. For the first time in his life, his name, his wealth, his power were worthless. He was just another white guy holding up a cowering black mom. As the days went by, he heard snippets of her history. Her name was Alina. She'd been a housekeeper for a family in a nearby village when they accused her of theft. No trial, no questions, just an evening of yelling, a cracked rib, and a threat that sent her and her twins fleeing into the woods. The police did not believe her. They never do, she replied softly. Her voice broke, not with fear but fatigue. Ethan remained outside that door many hours after she fell silent. The burden of what she said weighed more than any loss he had ever experienced. He constructed his life in boardrooms and headlines. But here in this forgotten place on the planet, he was confronted by the reality he'd long denied. The world he benefited from existed on someone else's pain. But the world hadn't forgotten her. That night, headlights cut through the trees. 3 trucks, loud engines, men shouting his name. He didn't know them, but they knew him. Didn't think you'd move in next to her kind, one of them yelled. Ethan's stomach turned cold. Alina froze, clutching her babies. The men laughed, slurred, cruel laughter that held the weight of something older than hatred. Ethan attempted to explain, but one of them hurled a rock through the window of the shack. Another spat on the door. Let her go, one of them yelled. People like her do not belong here. The twins began to wail. Alina muttered something to herself. A prayer, a farewell. Ethan's heart was racing. He finally understood that the threat wasn't just for her. It was for all of them. And when the trucks rolled around the shack like a pack of wolves, Ethan had a decision to make. Remain quiet as he had always done, or for the first time in his life, stand for something. The darkness exploded into pandemonium. The men charged forward, flashlights cutting through the shadows. Ethan froze in the doorway, his heart pounding against his chest. Alina clutched her babies close within, mouthing to them not to make any noise. But their wails pierced the night like shards of glass. Move, one of the men growled, advancing. His boots stamped down on the gravel with heavy, deliberate tread. Ethan's mind shrieked to take off and run, but his feet remained rooted. For once, he wasn't going to step aside. The man spat. Didn't think a rich boy would come to her defense. He said the word like poison. Ethan's throat went dry. His whole life had been built on comfort, control, the power to walk away. But not tonight. He raised his voice, steady but trembling. "You'll have to go through me." A flash of anger crossed the man's face. Then came the shove, hard, violent, sending Ethan stumbling back against the doorframe. The twins wailed louder. Alina's whisper turned into a sob. And then silence. The kind that burns. The kind that determines who lives and who dies. Ethan gazed into the face of the man in front of him and saw something age-old. Fear masquerading as hate. His heart pounded. He knew what was coming. But before the man could swing again, a light swept over them. Another truck and then sirens. Someone in town had called. The mob faltered, cursing, backing into the shadows like wraiths disappearing into the woods. Ethan fell to his knees. His chest throbbed, blood warm, trickling down his cheek. Alina crawled towards him, shaking, one twin against her shoulder. They simply looked at each other for a long time. Two worlds colliding, both shattered in different ways. And for the first time, Ethan realized silence doesn't safeguard the innocent. It just safeguards the brutal. But the night wouldn't end, because the next morning, the tale would no longer remain secret. By dawn, everyone in town knew. Somebody had recorded the assault. Grainy, men screaming slurs, Ethan holding his position outside the shack, blood streaming down his face, refusing to budge. It traveled quicker than fire. News headlines referred to him as the millionaire who stood up. To Ethan, however, it wasn't courage. It was shame, decades of keeping quiet, disintegrating in one night of honesty. The sheriff arrived, all apologies and broken words. Misunderstanding, they lied. No harm done, but harm had been done. Alina's ribs still hurt. Her twins still cried themselves to sleep. And the men who'd arrived with hate in their eyes, they'd go home, unscathed, unmolested, because that's how it's always been. Ethan once believed he could buy his way out of all of it. Now, however, he knew differently. He couldn't purchase justice, but he could reveal it. He gave interviews, not for himself, but for Alina, the woman the world forgot. Her tale was a spark spread by millions on social media. But behind every share, every hashtag, Ethan saw the same question burning. Why must someone bleed before we begin believing? Months afterward, the shack remained, fixed, painted again, full of laughter. Ethan never left. He constructed anew there, something true, but he bore that night on him like a wound, a reminder that ease without bravery is only another kind of complicity. Because what had been done to Alina wasn't an accident. It was history, replaying in the forgotten places of a nation still catching its own reflection. And maybe the real question isn't what Ethan did that night. It's what we'll do the next time silence feels safer than standing up.